Instruction Skill 14 is about understanding units, and we're talking about units of measurement. So let's look here at this box. We have some units of capacity and weight. Capacity refers to liquid. U.S. customary units of capacity, you have the fluid ounce, the cup, the pint, the quart, and the gallon. Metric, you have milliliters and liters. And for weight, U.S. customary weights, we have the ounce and a pound. Metric weights, we have a gram and a kilogram. And there are others, but these are the ones that relate to this particular story. And here's our story, our scenario for this example. Elise's doctor prescribed a liquid medicine for her cough. Which measure may be one dose of her medicine? Well, I can eliminate number 1 because that is a gram, that's a weight, not a liquid capacity. Number 3 is also a weight. Then I'm left with 5 milliliters, 5 liters, or 5 pints. The answer is number 2, 5 milliliters. About units. Units tell two things about the object being measured. What is being measured? Is it capacity, weight, length, temperature, etc.? Size. How big, how heavy, how long, how hot, etc. The unit of measure should be appropriate for the measurement. For example, suppose you are asked to buy 1 gallon of milk. You know that a gallon is a measure of liquid volume, capacity, and you have a good idea of the size of a 1 gallon container. Now instead, suppose you are asked to buy 128 fluid ounces of milk. You may know that a fluid ounce is also a unit of capacity, but you may not know that 128 fluid ounces equal 1 gallon. Fluid ounces is not the appropriate unit for a large quantity of milk. There are 2 major systems of measurement in use today. The U.S. customary system is the familiar measurement system used in everyday life in the United States. The metric system is that system of measurement used in most other industrialized countries throughout the world and used by doctors and scientists in the United States. Solution. Consider each answer choice. 5 grams. A gram is a unit of weight. Elise would not weigh her liquid cough medicine. 5 milliliters. Milliliter is a unit of capacity, and 5 milliliters is about the amount of a teaspoon. Ounce is a unit of weight. Elise would not weigh her cough medicine. Liter is a measure of capacity. However, a liter is about the same size as a quart. That's far too much. 5 of those 5 quarts would be over a gallon of cough medicine for 1 dose. That's too much. Pint is a measure of capacity, but 5 pints is more than 2 quarts. Again, that is far too much. So 5 milliliters is the most reasonable answer. Concept. Connie wants to weigh a letter to see if it needs a single stamp or 2 stamps? Which unit will Connie most likely use? Well, I can eliminate number 1, that's milliliter, that measures liquid. Number 2 is pint, that measures liquid. Number 3 is foot, that measures distance. So kilogram and ounce are both weight measurements, but for a letter, I would use an ounce. Kilogram is the weight of a quart of milk. It's heavier than a letter would be. Choose the appropriate measure for H. In this case, H is the height of this basketball player. So we have feet, meters, millimeters, centimeters, and kilometers. All of those are measures of height or distance, but let's break them down. 2 feet would be about 24 inches. So we're talking about the height of a baby or the length of a baby. 2.1 meters is the correct answer. That is a little bit over 6 feet. Not much, but a little bit. Millimeters, 2.1 millimeters. That would be about the length of an ant, a large ant. 2.1 centimeters, that would be the length maybe of a wasp. And 2.1 kilometers would be the distance between houses or between streets. It's distance, but it's more than you would associate with a person's height. What is the approximate distance from Berlin to Paris? Berlin is in Germany. Paris is in France. So we're talking about the distance between countries. Couldn't be centimeters. Could not be meters. This would be between houses. Millimeters, that's a tiny distance. Kilometers, this is the one we want. We can eliminate number 5 because liters is a liquid measurement, not a distance measurement. Okay, I'm trying to think of something about 677 centimeters. This would be the height of a child, possibly. And 677 millimeters could be the height of a bottle, like a perfume bottle. Number 4, in Japan, which amount would be used to tell the capacity, that is liquid capacity, of a large bottle, something like we're seeing here pictured? Well, if we're in Japan, we won't be measuring in ounces, so we could eliminate that one. We would not be measuring meters because that's a distance. We're looking for a liquid capacity. But liters, milliliters, and kiloliters are liquid capacity. 500 liters, that would be like an aquarium, a fish tank, or a gas tank, a large gas tank. 500 kiloliters would fill a pool. So I like 500 milliliters. That is roughly, I think, about a pint, about 2 cups or a pint. So that would be a good sized bottle, something like pictured here. All right, number 5. What is the approximate length of a ladybug? Well, we can eliminate liter because liter measures liquid. Length is a distance. 1 meter is about the length of that basketball player's arm. 1 centimeter, 10 centimeters, or 1 millimeter. I like a millimeter, I think. Let me think about this. I know it's not 10 centimeters. That's too big. 10 centimeters would be maybe the length of a straw. 1 centimeter, that's about half an inch. That would be too big for a ladybug. That's more like a honeybee. I believe it's 1 millimeter. Let me double check this because I just don't feel good about that. Which lesson are we on? 14. Okay. Ladybug question is number 5. No, they say that it is a centimeter. I had a feeling I was missing that one. This is not the answer. It is number 2. I knew it was between a centimeter and a millimeter. Of course, it's not a millimeter. A millimeter is like one of those little tiny ants. I should know better than that. A tiny ant, not a big ant. In forensic science, you deal with millimeters with hair. The diameter of a hair is a fraction of a millimeter. So that does make more sense. The ladybug would be about a centimeter. Something about like this. A millimeter is very, very small. There are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. What is the approximate weight of a pin? In a pin, P-I-N, this can refer to a pin that you wear. I believe that they want us to think about like a pin that you would use for sewing. If you're talking about a pen that you used for writing, that is P-E-N. So I think they want us to use the pen for sewing. And we're talking about weight, so we can eliminate an ounce and a liter. We have a gram, a pound, and a kilogram. It's going to be a gram. Pound is 4 sticks of butter. That would be way too heavy. And a kilogram, what did they use as a benchmark? A quart of milk. Both of those would be very much too heavy. So 1 gram would be a sewing pen, not what you wear. That would be several grams. An ink pen is spelled P-E-N. All right, number 7. Joyce is making a cake. What amount of milk is she likely to use? Well, milk is liquid, so we can eliminate the gram. And we're left with 3/4 of a gallon, 7.5 liters, 0.75 cup, or 7.5 pints. And that's going to be 3/4 of a cup. The others would be way too much milk for a cake. unless it's an enormous cake. And even if it were, the recipe would probably be for a regular size cake. Number 8, Jim is ordering a custom replacement window. Which height is most reasonable to order? So we have all of these in meters. That is, they're all lengths, distances, all of them apply to the type of question. But which is the most reasonable number? Well, we said that our basketball player up here was about 2.1 meters tall. The length of his arm is about 1 meter. So I think number 2 would be the most logical choice. This would be the height of a house, possibly. This would be the height of a hotel, possibly. And this could be distance on the street. Not a great distance. But if you're talking about a window, I would say about 1.25 meters would be reasonable.